In the previous video, we set up our foundation project and started to build our homepage. In this video, we're going to finish off the homepage and start building our Scriber application page. So this is our current homepage at the moment. Now obviously we're missing the footer area, so if we go to the live rapidweaverfoundation.com page, you'll see if we scroll down, we have this darker blue coloured footer area with links to some additional resources and our social network links as well. So to start this video, let's look at how we can build this. So let's go over to RapidWeaver, and I have my homepage open here. Now the first thing we need to do is add a one column foundation stack. So I'll go to my foundation folder and drag and drop in the one column foundation stack below the main banner area there. Now often what I like to do to save some space is to close up the previous section that I've been working on the page. So in this case it's the banner area. So what I do is select the wrapper stack and then click the hide button. We could also do that with the site styles for now. That's just to give us a little bit more space so we can see what we're working on here. Okay, so as I said, what we want is this footer area with the darker blue background. So all I'm going to do is select our wrapper one column foundation stack, go to the top here and set the background color to be a dark blue, like so. Okay, and then inside of there, what we had, if you remember on the live site, is basically a three column layout at the top with some centered content below. So to start with, what we can do is drag and drop in a three column stack, and that will give us a three column layout obviously. Then inside of there, what we want to do is add a header. So I'm going to search for the header stack inside of Foundation and drag and drop one of those into the left hand column. Below that we're going to have a paragraph of text. So again I'll search for paragraph and drag and drop that in below the header. Now if you remember from the previous video, what we can do to style this text is use one of the alternate or swatch styles. And in this case we want the text to be white. We can again choose the alternate style, like so, and then we get a white header. Below that we're going to have a list of links. So what I'm going to do is actually delete all of this placeholder paragraph text. And then I'm going to quickly add some placeholder text here. So if you have a look on the live site here, you'll see we've got 4 links in each column. So what I'm going to do is just quickly type out these 4 links, and then we'll look at how we add the icons to the left hand side of each one of those. Okay, so here you can see I have added those 4 links, so just some plain text inside of the paragraph. Now what we want to do, if we go and preview this actually first, we go over to our local server here and we'll go down. We'll see we've now got that blue header, or we've now got that blue footer area, and you'll see we've got 4 links here, or 4 lines of text, and what we want to do is get that icon to the left hand side of each one of these lines of text. So to do this, what we're going to use is something called Font Awesome. Now if you go to the Font Awesome website, or if we Google for Font Awesome and you go to the Font Awesome website, the first result here, what this is a collection of free icons that you can use, and luckily for us this comes bundled with Foundation. So essentially what you get is, I think it's around 500 icons that you can easily use in any of your projects. So you can have a look around this and you can have a look at the examples of what you get. So here you can see all the different icons and sizes and examples of how you can use those. And the way we're going to use these icons is by using some code like this. So by using an I tag, and then we're going to set a custom Font Awesome class onto there so that we can use the actual icon provided from Font Awesome. Now if this seems quite advanced to begin with, just follow along and copy the code in and you'll start to get the idea of how we can include these Font Awesome icons into our project. But essentially all we do is use this piece of code, and then all we're going to do later on to change the icon that we want to use is update this piece of text to the correct icon name. So again, just follow along for now and you'll get the hang of this as we include more and more of these icons throughout the project. So copy over this piece of text or this piece of code, go back to RapidWeaver, and then all we need to do is paste that into the left hand side of each line, like so. Now when we go back to preview on our local browser, you can see in the dark grey we've then got that camera icon next to each piece of text here. So all you need to do to use the Font Awesome icons is copy over this piece of code here, paste it into your project, and then when you need to know which icons you want to use, you can go to the icons area, you can scroll down and search here. So for example, the first link in our footer is to download, so we could search for a download icon. And here you'll see that you get all the different types of download icons that you can use. We're going to use this one, so we can click on that. And Font Awesome will even give you the example code that you want to use. So we could just actually copy over this piece of code, go back to our project, and paste that in, or should I say paste as plain text. So you can do that from the edit menu and paste as plain text here, or Command Alt V. So now when we go back to our local preview here, you'll see that we get the download icon there. So let's go and do that for the remaining links here. So what I'm going to do is on the getting started videos, we are going to have, and I can just see here on the example that I copied over first, we had the FA-large modifier. So that was giving us the large version of the icon. We don't actually need that. So I'm going to delete that on this example. And the icon we're going to use for the getting started videos is a video camera. So all we need to do is put in video camera. Then on the next one, again I'm going to delete the FALG piece of text there. And for the manual, we are going to be using a book. So it's FA-book. And then finally on the help and support, what we're going to use is the life ring, like so. Okay, now if we go back to our preview, you'll see we get those 4 different icons down the left hand side here. So next, all we need to do is link these pieces of text off to the correct pages. So in our case, we don't actually have any other pages or anywhere for these to go. So all I'm going to do is add a blank link into here, just as an example. Obviously, in real life, you would link these off to a different page or perhaps an external HTTP URL, for example, something like that. For me, I'm just going to put in some dummy text into here, just so you get the idea of how this will work. So I'll just do the remaining 2 quickly here. Like so. Okay, so now let's go to preview again and make sure those are being linked, and they are, like so. Okay, so then what we want to do is update this header text, and I think we had getting started on the left hand side, so we'll pop that into the top there. And I believe we had all of this center aligned on the live site as well. So we'll just select those 2, so we'll just select the header and the paragraph and center align it. Okay, we'll go back and preview, make sure that looks good, and yeah, now we're starting to get somewhere. If we go to our live site, you'll see that's kind of how we have it laid out. In the center, and we have the correct icons on each link. What we need to do next is add a bit of padding and then copy over the links into the other 2 columns and add our divider. So let's go back to RapidWeaver and do that now. So the first thing we need to do is select the 1 column foundation wrapper stack there. And as we did previously with the banner area, we'll want to add some padding to the top and bottom. And again, we're going to be using 5 rems. That was the equivalent of 80 pixels. And again, if you're unsure of how to work that out, go back and use this rem calculator. If you only want 40 pixels, pop in 40 here and click calculate, and you'll get the equivalent rem size below. Okay, but as I said, we're going to stick with 80, so we've got 5 and 5 in the top and bottom. Next, I am going to just adjust the size of this getting started header before we copy it over. So what I actually want to use is an H4, just to make that a little bit smaller, and then I can copy that over into the other 2 columns. And the same with the paragraph, we'll just copy these over for now, like so. And then what I actually want with these links is for them to be bold. So the easiest way for us to do that is just to select all the text in there and click the bold button in the RapidWeaver styling bar at the bottom there. So we'll do that for the other two columns as well, like so. Okay, next up what we wanted was a divider below this 3-column layout. So in Foundation, search for the divider stack and drag and drop that in below the 3 columns. Here we can adjust the style of the divider and the colorings and things like that. So we want a solid line. Now the color, again, that's controlled by the swatches and the styles within inside of your site style stack. So you're starting to see here all of the settings for a lot of the elements that you're going to add to your page are coming from the site style stack. In this case, what I'm going to do, just to be quick, is use a custom color. So I'm going to select this here, and what we are going to do is have a white bar that is perhaps, I don't know, around 10% opacity. Okay, so before we add our social links, let's go over to Safari and preview that. And there we can see we're starting to look a lot more like the live site. Obviously we need to update these 2 columns with the correct text, and we'll do that in just a minute. But for now, let's add our social links below the bar here. So to do that, we will use a paragraph, drag and drop that in there below the divider, and I'll get rid of the placeholder text. And then again in here, all I'm doing is using a Font Awesome icon for these social links. So if we go back to the Font Awesome website and we go and do a search for example Twitter, here you can see you get 2 different Twitter icons. You can have a plain one with no background, or you can have it with inside a square. And we're using the Twitter square icon. So all we need to do in the box here is add that I tag and then a class attribute, and add the classes of FA for Font Awesome, and then FA-Twitter-square, and then close that I tag off, like so. Okay, then all I'm going to do is copy that twice over again so that we can do one for Facebook and Instagram. So let's search for Facebook here. So we can use the Facebook official, or we can use the Facebook square. So again here you can see it's just Facebook-square. So we'll go back to RapidWeaver and replace Twitter, and I can just see there that I've misspelt Twitter, so I'll have to update that as well. So Facebook, and we'll go back and add the W into Twitter. And then finally we had Instagram. So on the Font Awesome website, let's search for Instagram, and you'll see that one there. So all we need to do is put in FA-Instagram, like so. And then what we did was link these off to our social profiles. So we'll highlight that text, and this one here, for example, we could send it to twitter.com/Ben Council, or whatever your Twitter handle is. And again, for the Facebook, you'd probably send this to your Facebook page. We'll just enter a £sign for now. And the same with the Instagram, you'd obviously link that off to your public profile. Okay, let's go back to Safari and preview that. And there we can see we've got the 3 icons there. However, we need to center align them, and we probably want to make those a little bit larger as well. So let's have a look at doing that. So we've got the paragraph selected, the alignment we want is center, and then what we want to do is increase the size. So we can do that by using the custom sizing option here. And you can set the size in rems. So we obviously have 1 rem, so that is the base font size of 16 pixels. If we want that to be larger, we could go to the rem calculator site, and if we wanted this to be, for example, 24 pixels, we could calculate that, and you'd see it's 1.5. Or if we want it to be 30, maybe 1875. So we can copy that over, and we can paste that in, and 1.88, so it will round it up for us, and we'll leave the line height as 1.6. Now when we go back to Safari and preview our local site, you'll see the font size has been increased there. So that's our social buttons done. All I'm going to do now on the footer is quickly pause the video here and update these links so they match the live site. So I'll do that now in RapidWeaver and come back in just a second. Okay, so I've just updated those links and icons. We can go to Safari and preview that, and you'll see those have been updated there. So our footer's looking pretty good. I just need to, and I've forgotten to, update the header text here. So let's go and do that together quickly. So the second column was learn how to draw. And the last one was community. Like so. Okay. So that is our footer pretty much done. If we just check our live site, you'll see that looks pretty much the same. All we want to do is maybe increase the line height of this paragraph so the links are a little bit more spread out. Gives it a little bit more space for each link. So we can do that here by using custom sizing. And we can set the line height to 2 rems, like so. So we'll do that on each one. And we'll go back to Safari and Preview again, and you'll see they get a little bit more space, almost like adding margin to each element inside of the paragraph there. But we've set the line height just to give a bit more space. As I say, it looks a little bit nicer. Okay, now that's looking pretty good. What we can move on to is creating the Scriber page. So if we go again to our live site, you'll see we have the Scriber page here with the banner and the app and a Buy Now button. Let's have a look at how we can start building this page. So let's go to RapidWeaver. I'll open up RapidWeaver's left sidebar here, and I want to add a new stacks page. And instantly we'll call this Scriber. And I'm going to update the folder to also be Scriber, like so. And just close out RapidWeaver's left sidebar. Now again, the first thing we want to do is add the site style stack. Okay, so your first thought might be to just drag and drop that site style stack in. But then the issue is that all of these site styles are the defaults that ship with Foundation. So all of the colors that we set, all of the fonts that we adjusted, like the headers and the font weights, all of that has gone back to the defaults that ship with Foundation. So what we need to do is go back to our home page and create a partial that can be shared across our entire site. So let's delete this site style stack from here, go back to our home page, and then what we're going to do is create a partial from the site styles and top bar, because obviously the top bar is the menu or the navigation for our site, and that is very likely going to be the same across all of the pages. So what we can do is first of all select the site styles and then just simply click the partial button inside of stacks, and that will create the partial for you. Then what we'll do is give that a title of global header. Then all we need to do is go and add that top bar stack into this partial. So to do that, click the back button, and then we will copy this top bar with Command C. Then I'm going to delete it from the page. I'm going to double click on the global header partial to edit it, and then just paste that top bar into here. So what we have here essentially is a partial in stacks that has the site styles and the top bar. This means that all of the site styles that we set up in here can be shared across all the pages on our site. So now we can go to our Scriber page, and if we go to our partials area here, you'll see we have a global header. All we need to do is drag and drop that into our page. We then have all of the same settings in the site styles that we have on the home page. And if we update that on the Scriber page here, those will be reflected onto the home page as well. So it's really important that you create this partial and use it on all of the pages of your site. Okay, once you've done that, what we can do is start to build up the banner area for this page. So I'm going to close out RapidWeaver's left sidebar, go to my foundation stacks, and drag and drop in a 1-column foundation below the global header. Okay, and then in the same way that we set up the banner area for the home page, what we want to do is set a background image. We can browse for that image, and again choose the header background here, click the open. We don't want any tiling, and we want it to fill up the whole area. Then inside of there, what we need is a 1-column foundation stack again. This time we're going to set the background color, and again we're going to set that as a 65% black, like so. And we need to remember to set the width of this. So the max width is going to be full width, and we're going to remove the gutters again. And then we also need to set the inner one column foundation, max width to be full width, and remove the gutters. Okay, then inside of there what we want is an image, so we'll go down to the content and we'll drag and drop in the foundation image. And again we'll just set the mobile image for this tutorial as the icon, and we will set a max width 256 for each device, like so. Then below that we want the header, and what we could do is go back to our home page and just copy over the header and paragraph text that we have here. Now depending on your project, you could create a partial out of this banner area on the home page and reuse that on your application page. However, what I'm doing is using a slightly different button to show you how to create a drop down, so I'm not doing that in this instance. That's why there's a little bit of duplication, but I am going to copy over the header and paragraph and paste them into here. Okay, so then what we want is a drop down button, because if we go to our live site here, you'll see when we hover we get a drop down here. Now obviously you can't buy an iPad app directly or from the Mac App Store. This is just an example to show you how you could create something like this. So what we need to use is the button stack, and we can just drag and drop that in. And then the settings inside of here, we need to change the type to be a drop down or an open drop down here. And then quickly before we add the drop down, what we'll want to do is set the styling here. So I want the alignment to be center, and I want rounded buttons, so rounded corners there, and I'll just set the text to buy now. Okay, so now we've told this button that the type is an open drop down. So what we need to do is actually create that drop down. So if we scroll down here, you'll see in the dynamic layout section of the stacks we have a drop down stack. So we need to drag and drop that into our page, and then we can add any type of content into this drop down. Now for us, what it's actually going to be is a link list, like so. And then we can set the link count on the settings here. We only want 2. And then obviously you can see you get 2 links here, and you need to set the URL and the link title. So for us, I'm just going to enter something imaginary. So for example, this would be store, something like that. And then the title would be directly. And the price was $99, for example. And then for the second one, we had it going to the Mac App Store. So we might have a redirects folder, and then we have a Mac App Store redirect, like so. And the text would be Mac App Store, and maybe we're selling it there for 129, something like that. Okay, now the key thing to remember here is on the button, we've told it that it is an open drop down button. You need to ensure that the drop down ID set here is exactly the same as the drop down ID used here. Now the reason that there is a drop down ID set is because you can have multiple drop downs on the same page. However, they need to have a unique ID. So I would suggest that you name this drop down. Don't leave it as the default. Call it something like buy now drop down, like so, and then copy that into the button settings for the drop down ID. Now they need to be identical, otherwise this button won't be able to open that drop down. So all we're going to do here is perhaps use some custom styles for the links. So the background we can use as white, and we'll set the text color to the primary blue color there. Okay, so let's go and preview this and see if it's working. So to do that, I will press Command P on the keyboard. And there we have our page open up with our new menu item at the top. And we need to add some padding here, which I seem to have forgotten. And also the drop down is working nicely there when we click on that. Okay, so let's go and adjust a few of these settings. So on the 1 column foundation stack here, we want to add 5 at the top and bottom, so 5 rems, 80 pixels. And then on the button, what I actually want it to do is open on hover. So when someone hovers over the buy now button, I want that to open up automatically. And then also on the drop down, what I want to do is set the size to be auto. So that should shrink and expand based on the content that we add here. So we don't need to worry about actually setting a fixed width for that drop down. It'll work out the width that it actually needs to be. So let's go back to Safari again and preview that. And now we're looking a bit better, and we hover over there and we get our 2 links. So okay, so the final thing I want to do is add some rounded corners, because that's the styling of my site. So we can go back and preview that again, and yet now we get the rounded corners there with the drop down in the same way we have on the live site. Okay, so let me just close out a few of these tabs so we've got a bit more space, and we get back to our local preview here. So the next thing we need to do is add that photo gallery, or the product image gallery here. So to do that, what I'll do is close up this banner area, and I'm going to close up the global header partial, and then what we're going to do is add a 1-column foundation stack as basically as a wrapper for the content inside of there. Then what we need is a header. Okay, and before we add our slider to the page, I'm going to just add the text that we want here, and that was designed exclusively for iPad Pro. And we're going to center align that like so. Okay, and then as I say, we need to add that slider. So luckily for us, the foundation framework comes with an orbit slider. So all we need to do is drag and drop in the orbit slider stack into here, and then we can adjust the settings in the page inspector. So you can set the amount of slides that you want here. For us, we need 6, and you can change the theme and a few other settings that we'll have a look at in a minute. But to get started with, you can see here that we now have 6 drop areas. So all we want for our slides is images. However, you can add any type of content you want. You can have text, you can have anything that fades in, or you can have background images. Whatever you want, you can add that to the slider stack, and that content will be its own slide. But as I say, for us, all we're using it for in this first instance is as an image gallery. So all we need to do is add the image stack to each one of these. And then, as normal, we just need to set the mobile image. So I'm going to browse, and I have some screenshots ready here, and I'm going to choose one, and that's all we need to do. So let's go and actually just copy over this into each slide, and then we can update each image one by one. So we'll just copy this a couple more times like so. And then all I'm going to do quickly is go and browse for each one of these images. So I'm going to clear the default one there and select 2. And do the same for the remaining 4 images. Okay, so that's our 6 images done. Again, I just want to point out that we're only setting the mobile version of this image. If you want to optimize your site further for speed and for the device that it's being served on, you would resize these images and serve a specific one for each device. So the mobile one would obviously be a very small version of that image, whereas the desktop one might be a high resolution retina image. However, just to keep things quick, I'm obviously only setting the mobile one, which is actually the desktop version of the image, and that's going to be used on all of the devices if we only set it as the mobile image. Okay, so with those 6 images being added, let's go back to Safari and preview that. And we can scroll down, we can see I've got our header, and instantly we've got our navigation down the bottom here, so the little dots, and we've got arrows where we can go through each one of the images. So by default they fade through. However, what we wanted them to do was slide, I believe. So on the live site here, you can see that they slide. So we can go and change the settings for this stack in RapidWeaver and update that. So let's go back to RapidWeaver, select the orbit slider, and to do that we just choose the animation type to be slide, and then we can update the settings here. So by default the speed is ½ a second and the slide delay is 10 seconds. So if you only want that to be 5 seconds, for example, you can set that there, and each slide will be shown for 5 seconds. And we can update the animation speed to say 250 milliseconds. Okay, that's all the settings that we need for these images. Have a play around with the other settings here if you need them or you want to have something a little bit more custom, but we're going to leave it as that for this tutorial. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is just checking that that has worked. Yeah, we're now doing the slide animation. Currently our site width, I think it's 1160, so 1160 pixels. However, on the live site, or the pre-built site that I used, is actually 960 pixels. So what I want to do is go to the site styles and update the site width. So I'm going to go into my global header partial, select the site styles and update the site sizing here. Okay, so actually it was 1000, so this has been set to 1000 here. What we actually want is 960, like so. And we can leave the rounded corners of 3 pixels, but as you can see, you can set that globally. So if you wanted your buttons and things like that to be more rounded, you can increase that here. And we'll leave the column gutter as 0.94 rems. So all I wanted to do was update the global max width for the site. And if we go back to the one column foundation stack here, you'll see the max width is the site width. So that's being set within inside of the site styles foundation stack. Now when we go back to our local site, you'll see that the width has been updated to be slightly smaller. Okay, so all I want to do is add a little bit of margin below the banner area and below the header as well. So we'll just quickly do that. We could add some margin to the bottom of the banner area by using the layout area. And we can say 40 pixels for example, and then on the header what I want that to be is 20 pixels. We'll go back and preview that and we're looking a little bit better there. Okay, so that will just about do it for this lesson. I think we've covered quite a lot there. We've got that footer done on the home page and we've started to build our Scriber app page with the drop down button and the nice slider gallery in there. In the next video we will continue building upon that and start adding this feature list and the remaining content on our Scriber application page. Okay, so once you're ready, I will see you in the next video.